And boom. All right. So now, Gwendolyn.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, thank you everyone for being here. This is awesome. I'm so excited. I'm selfish in this. I've been really looking forward to presentation because I'm so interested and I have so many questions without even knowing any of it. And I've been watching you, Gwendolyn, just do your magic. And Alita is coming too. I see you do this magical work, seriously. And and the struggles you have alongside, just like, Barty was saying earlier, you being human just shows up you know, and I find that it's just, if the giants like you have those struggles as well, we're in good hands.
Good.
So thank you. First of all, thank you for jumping in, for doing this. I know you had this, I don't know what you dealt with, but it seemed like you had a long drive and a lot of things that happened. So making it here today is,
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate that. And I'll introduce what I'm doing and who I am. So
yes,
my name is Gwendolyn Posey. I have a doctorate in natural medicine, a doctorate in pastoral sciences, and a doctorate in functional medicine, and then several degrees in genomic medicine. And about a year ago, I was in my ILP, and I discovered that I wanted to go back to school to become a genomic practitioner, which is what I am, a functional genomic practitioner. And ever since then, I have been just to tell you what's going on is just phenomenal. So I'm going to give you a couple of case studies real quick. I had a lady come to me with stage 4 breast cancer. It was triple negative. She was given 3 months to live, and I ran her genomics. Instead of treating her cancer, I treated her genomics. Found out that she could not process any vitamin Bs, but vitamin B12. She couldn't even process the methylfolate, which is a broken down form of vitamin B12. I had to bypass all of that and go to what's called folinic acid. And I had to basically support her body, which is what caused her to get cancer in the first place. So treating her cancer would have been a moot point since the cause of her cancer was never addressed. Since then, I've gone on to treat several stage 4 cancers. One gentleman had an artery in his heart that was blocked 100%. He was able to get that reversed. I've been able to reverse diabetic neuropathy and able to reverse.
So can I jump in for a second?
Yes,
I don't mean to be rude, but I have 2 things that I want to address. First of all, ladies, this is all ladies group, but I might have a couple of male friends who would love to hear the topic, and I just want to ask you if you're comfortable with having men join this particular call. Or do
I have no problems with it.
You're okay? Okay, that's one thing. So I'll send the link. The other thing that's there, if you don't mind, Gwendolyn, to just kind of create the context of what genomic medicine is.
Okay.
Because you're in it, you're boiling in it, and you're in that, right? And we're not.
Well, does my screen change?
So we're looking at magnesium panel.
Yeah, can you see this real quick? Is my screen changing for you guys?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So that's going to give me kind of an understanding of what I'm capable of showing you. So let's talk about genomes and genetics and what it is I'm doing. So your genetics are you, your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents. Genomics is how all of those genetics interacted with one another to create you. And the reason it's so impactful is I can look at your genomics, which is why it's a little bit different than genetics. It's a form of genetics, but it's more specific, like what is actually your expression. We look at 700 different genomic variants, and those 700 different genomic variants have 2 things in common. One, they're medically relevant. In other words, they have an impact on your health. And 2, we can influence them. Like, I don't care what your eye color is, but I do care if you have BDNF alpha or TNF alpha or ILB16. Those words don't need to mean anything to you, and that's fine. What they mean to me and what I can see for you is, can you make vitamin D? Can you process the vitamin D? And do you have what we call transferase, basically little docking stations that help a vitamin D cross the blood-brain barrier? And so this test is like beyond all sorts of tests. We can just address, there's nothing I can't address using your genomics. I'm going to give you a real quick example of something that's kind of layman's terms. We can check your vitamin D levels in your blood and they'd be perfectly normal. That does not mean that vitamin D had the little docking stations. There's like 12 little docking stations that attach to the vitamin D, and then help it cross your blood-brain barrier. That I can only see with your genomics. Also, there's other things like—
Why does that matter?
Why does it matter? Well, vitamin D is the master hormone, and it turns on and off thousands and thousands of other gene variants. If we can get your vitamin D balance, so many symptoms will go away. And then so, it's kind of giving you a brief synopsis of the things that I've been able to, really, really influence. Autism seems to be my specialty. The first young man that came to me was 14, verbal, but not sentences, just words occasionally. He grunted and made noises. Level 3 autism, highest level of autism, flapping, spinning, had to wear pull-ups at night. Full-size man. I mean, this child was the size of a full-size man, still is. We did his genomics. We found a few things that were really profound. One, he couldn't process copper at all. That matters because when his mother was trying to help him, she was giving him multivitamins. And one of the multivitamins she heard was really good for autism was copper. So the more copper she gave him, the more copper built up in his brain, and his little body had no way of getting rid of that copper. So the next thing we found this one I didn't even know about until I learned about genomics was there's several variants that are related to how we process benzene. Benzene is found in everyday things. It's found in car exhaust, cigarette smoke, vaping. Just about any toxic chemical has a level of benzene in them. Reading the comments there. The issue with this young man is his body, instead of processing and getting rid of benzene like the majority of us can, his body turned it into a chemical called benzene oxide. And then he was unable to process this. So every time his mother would smoke his food or would cook on the grill or burn the garbage, they're country people, so they burn their garbage. Anytime she did that, he would start vomiting and have major outbursts. That was the result of his body making benzene oxide. Then he had a third SNP, a third very, very important variant that prevented him from using his vitamin D. So in his first 3 days after I got his genomic back and started treating him, his OCD was gone. The child went from repeating himself 400 or 500 times in a day to completely gone in 3 days. He could not read and he could not do math. He was kindergarten level. Like they were constantly trying to remind him of his letters and teaching him how to read. In 4 weeks, let me reverse that. In 5 weeks, he went up 4 grade levels. That's the proper way to put that. So in 5 weeks, he was reading and doing math at a 4th grade reading level. And he didn't learn that from there to there. All we did was unlock his brain. We reduced the chemicals, the inflammation in his brain, and boom, there he was. So that was actually the first patient I ever treated with using genomics. It was mind-blowing. And I was in the ILP when this came up, and I didn't know how to use my words and tell people what was actually happening here. Now I'm repeating this over and over and over and over. And here I am. I'm not even a year out. I'm now speaking at 3 conferences and symposiums this year. I'm actually going to MAPS, which is a really big deal. I'm kind of excited about that. I'm now one of the US's leading experts in autism. And to go from one level to the other was just a phenomenal. But the reason I can do it is because I can see their genomics. I can actually watch their body come alive by just adjusting and tweaking things a little tiny bit. And it's all functional medicine. There's no pharmaceuticals involved in this. So I'm going to kind of continue. I know this is kind of overwhelming, but we are very much an expression of our genes or our gene variants or our genomics. So when we talk about things like anxiety or behavioral issues, we aren't paying attention to, as a society, I'm going to say not, individuals, but as a society, we're not focusing enough on histamines or your vitamin and we call them nutraceutical levels. What we're focused on is they've got a problem, let's give them some therapy. What if instead of looking at the body as broken, something to fix here, what if we start looking at the body as there's nothing wrong here, and the body is doing what it needs to do to obtain homeostasis and to keep itself alive? So instead of seeing symptoms that I need to treat, I look at symptoms as a clue that something's going on, and the body needs some support. That whole, and it was obviously landmark, but that whole paradigm shifted in my head. And once I started understanding that the symptoms somebody is having is not something I need to go fight, it's evidence that the body's already fighting, and I need to go join the fight. I need to go help the body instead of fighting the symptomology. That mentality or that shift, it's a whole new paradigm of healing and natural health. It's my body is my partner. Their body is their partner. And it's just phenomenal. So for some reason, I feel like I should say something about fibromyalgia. I had a young woman come in. To me, it's a young woman. She was 32. Severe fibromyalgia, debilitating pain. And as I was doing her genomics and reading her genomics, I watched the fibromyalgia symptoms come up. And it was just a matter of getting those different things back in balance. And her fibromyalgia symptoms completely went away. So I started no longer chasing a diagnosis. Instead, I started listening to the body and figuring out what it is it needs. So she has an event. Okay, my question would be, how do you correct epigenetics? So we're not correcting them, we're supporting them. So the 700 different ones that we're looking at are functionally influenceable. So if you're having a hard time with vitamin D, sometimes a measure of we need to get more vitamin D, sometimes it's we need to address your magnesium, and sometimes we need resveratrol or something else. We're never going against your epigenetics. We're just getting you to consume what is beneficial to your epigenetics. Did I answer that question well?
Gwen, I meant more like, so your genetics is like the blueprint, but obviously like with epigenetics, like your body's like ramping up or, down the different genes. So how do you correct your plan to factor in the epigenetics?
Do you want me to show you?
Yes.
So give me 2 seconds here. I had this pulled up and I just want to kind of show you. Okay, we're going to keep this as private as possible. Now, the people that I'm going to be sharing from their genomics have given me written permission to teach on these. So there's no issues here of conflict of interest. They like to be teaching cases. So I'm going to show you here, just kind of give you some behind the scenes. This is the gene that we're looking at here. And this is where it's found on your genome, the A and the G. This is the prevalence, the number of percentage of the population that has this particular gene. This is what the gene does. This is a glutathione transferase. Individuals with the SNP have a decreased detox activity of this glutathione transferase, resulting in a lower ability to get rid of heavy metals, pesticides, and other toxins such as smoke byproducts. I have this is my tool. This is where I've been playing with so much. I then have a further understanding, like, why is this clinically significant? Okay. Every one of these little these little hyperlinks lead me to research. And this is how I get to understand the person, deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper.
Could you give us, because I'm looking at this and it's Mandarin to me right now.
So none of this is something you need to be concerned with. This
Yeah.
is the part that I play at. So this right here is the interventions. And typically these have little blue hyperlinks as well. And I'll explain more what I do with this. But in order to influence this particular GSTP1, I'm going to use either glutathione if I want to directly increase your glutathione levels. If I wanted to increase the expression of glutathione genes through the NRF2, I would use sulforaphane. Do you see how I have like access to what action it is I want to take on that particular
And how
gene?
do you decide that? I mean, it seems like for this one particular, just one gene or genome, I don't know, you have all these possibilities in actions that you could be taking. How do you know which one is the one to take?
Okay, so before I actually sit down with the patient with these results, I spend about 2 hours and I kind of go through things and I kind of get an overview. I'm going to show you a different panel real quick. I start with, it's kind of funny. I start with the hotspot summary. And from here, I get a really good, clear idea of
So let me even
really what's going on.
So let's say I'm your client. I come to you,
Mhm.
and there is some blood test that I'm gonna take, right? Is that it?
It's a swab. It's not a blood test.
Oh, not even blood test. Okay,
Mhm.
swab. Okay, and then there is the 2 hour with you, and this is the step you're talking about right now.
Right. So I do a behind the scenes for about 2 hours. So I prepare myself. I go through these over and over and over and over, and I look at all those clinical significance. I have a chart beside me before I even meet with you, and I'm seeing like how many times did sulforaphane come up, how many times did resveratrol come up, how many times did glutathione come up. How important is this? How influential is this? And in this case, this is the hot spots. Only 4.4% of the population has this. So we're going to actually give this a little bit more significance than normal because it's so incredibly rare. This person never would have come up with this as the cause of her symptoms until we did this. And then we think, oh, maybe this is kind of contributing to her problems. Yeah, and I look at her symptoms. So before we've had this, genomics done, I've got an idea of what's going on in your body, and I start matching up your symptomology to your genomics. Like, what is it that we're after first and most? What's the most impactful? And then things like vitamin D. Vitamin D always has to be in balance. If you've got any of the vitamin D SNPs, that's where I'm going to start. And then your methylation. Let me show you some methylation panel real quick. Here we go. Homocysteine and methylation panel. Come on, computer. Are you not going to switch to it like you're supposed to? Please and thank you. All right, my computer's a little bogged down. Oh, because I'm in the hotspots. I'm sorry. That was my fault. So I go behind the scenes and then come back to you. Then, and you can't see, I guess you can. I should have had my other computer set up so you can see it, or my other section set up. I then we have a 1 hour appointment. I go through your results, what I think is actually going on, what I saw from your results. We come up with a game plan. We enact the game plan, whether it be, diet changes, supplements, whatnot. Then in the next 2 weeks, I then create this. I'm the only one in the whole world doing this, by the way. This is this particular woman's. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I create a notebook. And in that notebook, I have your genomics printed up. So everything you see here, I have it printed up so you can interact with it. Then again, behind the scenes, I interact with this notebook. And we're going to talk about glutathione real quick. And then there's handouts and wonderful things. I then can you guys see that? I don't have my camera up, so I can't see what I'm doing. But I then put stickers by where I want you to have more information, whether it be your diet changes or the diet I want you on. And then in your 3-ring binder, you would go to your handouts and you would notice a sticker. And this is where I want you and give you the power to do more research. Then at every one of our appointments, after the first one, you then have a place to take notes. Basically, we start creating checklists of, hey, if this is what let's say we're working on anxiety and you have high anxiety. we start creating a checklist together at every appointment. So were you exposed to things that have shown up in your genomics that's going to be a problem for you? If yes, then let's go to this. And then you take notes in your notebook. It says that if I've been exposed to this, this, and this, then I go to this, and this is the supplement I take. If I've had long COVID, this is what's probably wrong. If I have allergies, go to my allergy, which is your IgE section, and look at allergies. If I have inflammation, you go to your inflammation panel and you look through your inflammation panel. Was there exposure to here, here, or here? Yes, no. And basically we build this workbook together over a 4-month period of time of what's working and what's not working, so we can really move the needle on your health. And it puts the patient back in the driver's seat, puts the mother or the patient in full control of, oh my goodness, my son who has autism just had a breakdown. Let me go look at the copper foods. Oh my goodness, I gave him too much copper. I gave him something that was high in copper. Oh, remember we use a high vitamin C, a liposomal C for copper. Okay. And then, so the mother then has an actionable step to take. So I feel like I kind of got off on a tangent. But that's what we're doing here. This isn't one size fits all. This isn't, hey, take this for that. This is a working, movable, interactable. I have, my slogan is from genomic variant to actionable support. It's that structure that we all talk about in Landmark. How can we go from, okay, yes, something's not right, to I have power and control over what was going on? And it's not cookie cutter, where I could have 10 people with the same symptoms and there'd be 6 different causes. Which one is yours? And we can get very, very specific. So this is why we're having such amazing results with autism and everything else. This is what we're capable of doing. So far, on average, my autistic clients' children, I call them my children. It's not appropriate, but I'm calling them my children. I get very attached. In a 4-month period of time, we'll see between a 40 and 75% increase in functionality. That's profound. And this is done once in your lifetime. You only need one test, and we can refer back to this notebook for the rest of your life because your genomic never changes.
Can I, that's just incredible. So selfishly, I have a question because, you know, I've talked to you about my mother, right? And so I guess, what's your experience? You talked about autism, you talked about cancer. What's your experience with genomics and autoimmune diseases? You know, RA, for example, even just the diabetes, right? I mean, all those things that are just prevalent all over the place. There is no cure per se. There's a lot of medication for it. Further destroys the body, if you ask, you know, from my personal view, right? But is there must be. I agree with you where you say, you know, body is manifesting whatever it's just reacting to something, and it seems like there is no root cause that the medicine or Western medicine can just pinpoint for those things.
So let's talk about diabetes real quick, because I've had too many people that just not diabetic in a few weeks. Diabetes has a lot of root causes that we can see with genomics. Vitamin D is one of them, one of the actually very, very big ones. Another one is sometimes they can have strep infections inside their pancreas. It's actually one of the very known, I don't know why I like to talk about it, especially if they have sudden onset diabetes, like if it wasn't just progressively getting worse and worse. We can also run an obesity panel. And the reason that's important is if we've already got some weight problems or some digestion problems, of course, diabetes is, you know, right there down the line. This is actually something that I had to reverse on myself. Can you even process GLP-1? Do you have what's necessary to the enzymes necessary to actually produce insulin? And if that's the case, you have the enzymes necessary to produce to process proteins. If you can't process proteins, you're turning your proteins into sugars. And a lot of people don't have that kind of conversation. There's 1,000,001 causes of these different things and 1,000,001 solutions. Genomics is the way that we get pinpointed to what that individual needs. I'm sure most of you, if you've done any research whatsoever into functional medicine or alternative medicine, you realize like every ailment has at least 1,000 treatments. Which one's right for you? Well, the reason that is because there's literally 1,000 different gene variants that we can kind of influence and play with, and what works for one isn't going to work for another. And this is just a way of pinpointing that. Back to the original question, like your mother, all of that goes back to a metabolic disorder. So all of that, now why is she having a metabolic disorder? That goes back to that homocysteine and methylation panel. Can she process her B vitamins? B12 is responsible for detoxing so many different things. If she's got all these high levels of toxins, her body is fighting, like the house is on fire and her body's over here folding laundry because that's what it considers important. Or you can say it vice versa. The laundry doesn't get folded because the house is on fire. The body doesn't know what to do about it. It's just trying to put out the big flames. So it doesn't matter which way you look at that. There's too much going on. And if we can kind of reduce that stress load or that overall output the body's getting, the better we can help that person heal. The body's not dysfunctional. Every organism on the planet is looking for function in life. Everything is trying to live longer. No matter if it's the littlest virus or an amoeba, it's all about homeostasis. And that's what we're trying to do here. My primary, now this is outside of genomics, sort of. My primary view is if we can repair your mitochondria, which is your energy producing part of your every cell, if we can get your cells functioning at their highest rate, get them nourished, get their mitochondria up, we can reverse almost everything. Now there are some physical, like I'm not going to repair if the arm is cut off or we've got something that's that kind of damage. Obviously not. But we even had a little girl who had a genetic disorder that she should have died. They had her on tons and tons of anti-seizure medications and she was catatonic. I was able to run this and get her off all of her seizure medications and just with herbs and support her brain. And now she's trying to be verbal for the first time in her life. She's not there yet, but the improvement we've seen just with a couple of things, and she's a feeding tube. I mean, she's not even eating things. We're literally just giving her, things with a feeding tube. The other miraculous thing is Alzheimer's and dementia. Guys, this isn't where I'm the best of the best. Like autism is where I'm the best of the best. Mental health, I'm really, really good. However, I'm sitting back and with these genomics, we're getting people out of long-term memory care in 3 weeks. That's profound. We don't have to be sitting here suffering. We just need a new view of the body. The body's not broken. There's nothing wrong here. And quit trying to force the body. Okay, I'm going to give you a kind of a little bit of an example. When you have a fever, and you start giving your body Tylenol constantly to get a fever down, you're actually hurting yourself because the fever was actually there doing the work. It was actually fighting. So you basically had a guard dog, trying to bite the burglar and you shoot the guard dog. That's what fighting a fever's like. Now multiply that time every symptom you have, including mental health symptoms, which is this whole new paradigm that I love playing in. The majority of our mental health symptoms are related to inflammation, whether it be brain inflammation or whether it be histamines or IgEs or vitamin D alone. We can reverse 100% of mental health problems with genomics, 100%, even schizophrenia. Now, they still need our psychiatrists and our psychologists. They still need therapy, but we can give them their physical support so that their brain does heal and does move forward and beyond that while they're getting that psychotherapy, which is, I don't know if you guys know, that's personal to me. On a suicide anxiety type of base, I've spent the majority of my life suicidal with high anxiety and heavy. Menopause was really fun. Just letting everybody know. But doing my genomics, I could see that was never the problem. I didn't have a problem. I wasn't mentally unwell. I literally had an imbalance. I literally was trying to obtain homeostasis and just couldn't on my own. So I had to correct my CME, which is a whole different conversation. But there was a couple other questions. I saw one about hypothyroidism. Yes, hypothyroidism. If the thyroid is still in existence, if it hasn't been removed, yes. And I would talk a little bit about hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism. Our thyroid is just a gland. Like, that's all it is. Yes, it's got a lot of things it does, and yes, it's related to hormones, but it's just a gland, and we can stimulate that with a chicken heat lamp. So hypothyroidism, we can take one of those, the chick warmers that you see at the feed stores. It's like a little red bulb. It gets really, really hot. You hold it 16 inches from your thyroid. Let your thyroid heat up to 103 degrees for about 15, 20 minutes, and your thyroid will start functioning again. And then getting rid of the other thing about hypothyroidism, getting rid of calcium oxalate crystals. If you have not been able to break down all those beautiful leafy greens you've been eating for your health, you are building up calcium oxalate crystals in all your glandular tissue. And the majority of actual thyroid cancer is caused from too much calcium oxalate crystals actually in the gland. And so I would talk to somebody behind the scenes and ask them silly questions like, so do you have kidney stones? Do you have gallstones? And they would think, what does this got to do with my thyroid? Because those are all glands that also get calcium oxalate crystals. So if I know there's calcium oxalate crystals other place, I can automatically assume they're also in the thyroid. And then we would go on a, calcium oxalate, we call it a low oxalate diet. And then we could address it that way. I would still want to do their genomic because I'd want to get those vitamins and minerals in there to help with the reducing that individual's inflammation and helping them methylate or break down their vitamins and minerals. It would just help the healing so much faster. That's why we're getting such profound results. But it was never about, razor Synthrex or whatever they call that, but razor thyroid medicine. One thyroid medicine, they're always going to be upping it, just like insulin. You're always going to need more insulin. You're never going to go back because it didn't heal anything. It just covered up that there was something going on. Genomics, I'm able to look at what was going on. Why were we having insulin problems to begin with? What vitamins was your body trying to get, which is why it was over consuming or why it was craving this or why it was craving that or why was it dealing with this? Anyway, want to answer any questions? Does anybody else have any really specific questions for me? Because I have a couple of genomics up. I can show you an autism genomic if you wanted to.
Just before, I think that Alita asked about one.
Okay.
One question, and I guess the next question that I would have is like, when is the time when you do genomics? Like, you do it at 15, you do it when something's hurting, when something is off, when you're healthy. Is there like
It's any time in life. We can't do it on anybody younger than 2. There is this whole movement right now. There's called the biohackers. It's a whole group of people, and I guess they just have good money. But a whole group of people called biohackers who are just doing it for longevity. So it depends on your purpose. If you're doing it because you want to live longer and live a healthier life, if you're doing it because you've noticed that you're starting to get early onset dementia, or if you have an autoimmune disorder, it's amazing. And that I can share in our group as soon as we get off the call. It's amazing for mystery illnesses. I don't know what this is. The doctor keeps changing my diagnosis. It's fibromyalgia, it's rheumatoid arthritis, it's whatever. Those are my favorite. Those are so incredibly insightful when we do these. I consider autism a mystery illness, by the way, because every single autistic child that I've looked at so far has been completely different from the other. There's no one size fits all at all. Sorry, I'm not in Georgia and I can't join. Okay. Someone just messaged and said, I'm sorry, I'm not in Georgia. And so I can't join. I can always do another one of these if you guys wanted me to get more specific. Today was just to be a general overview.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
There's a lot here, like a fire hose of information. I would consider, especially if we have an ADHD child or a child that we're worried about issues, definitely get that done. If we've got autoimmune disorders, anxiety, depression, cognitive decline. Those are all reasons I would personally get it done. I plan on having everybody in my family done by the end of the year. We're working on it now. I've been obese for the longest time, and I would, try to lose weight. And as I would try to lose weight, my hair would fall out. My nails would break. I would get severely sick, and the anxiety and depression would go up. Well, after doing my genomics, there's a reason why all that was happening. And it was never, I had a poor willpower. It was never, I didn't do the right thing. And I didn't understand that you have to, calories in, calories out kind of thing. That wasn't it at all. I had some things blocking my weight loss, and I had some producing way too much cortisol. So once I started doing that and addressing those things, I started dropping weight just really quick. So just kind of putting that on the table. We're all dealing with our own little things, and definitely my weight gain, my insulin resistance, and my mental health instability was all related to the same things over and over. Isn't that kind of interesting? Yeah. Okay. Well, if anybody doesn't have any questions, I kind of wanted to just to give you guys hope about autism. They're saying that 1 in 3 children now have some form of autism or on the spectrum. That's pretty profound. There are things we can do, though. We don't have to sit back and just say that's just all there is. We can optimize these children. We can help them optimize their brain, reduce their inflammation, and optimize their detox pathways and build up their mitochondria. We can help these children. There's something we can do about it. So anyway, if there are no more questions, I'll just let you guys know that I can share my actual website on our group. It's just functionalgenomicmedicine.com. The lab that I'm using, that I've been talking about and that I've kind of shown you behind the scenes, is Intellect's DNA. And I am listed as one of their practitioners in Intellect's DNA. So if you ever wanted to travel through that pathway to find me, you absolutely could. I'm trying to think of anything else here. And I really just want to thank everybody for coming and being supportive of me, because the more I can get in front of this camera and speak fluently, the more practice I get, the better it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Gwendolyn, this is really amazing. First of all, thank you for, presenting. And yes, I mean, it's just, to me, it's just so much.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. And then there is, of course, brain goes to, okay, how can I fix this? And how can I fix this? And, what are the steps? And, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, going back to, you said it's a swap.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the timeline from that swap to get to the lab? Because I'm thinking, okay, what about overseas? Like even if, my mom is in Georgia, so they don't have that, whatever lab is needed, right? So how do we even deal with that kind of stuff? Like in Europe, for example.
Okay, so there's a few things. So it is a cheek swab. If you're not near me, so I can do the swab at the office. You can do it at home yourself too, though. It takes about a week to 10 days for you to get the kit. The kit has full instructions. Excuse me. And on the kit, there's this barcode. The lab and Intellect DNA never knows your name. They just know you by this barcode on your kit. So you keep a copy of that. I have a copy of that barcode. So in my files, I have your name and that barcode together. But if the government ever comes in to seize DNA and do whatever the government might want to do with DNA, that's prevented that way. And I have a couple of people who have requested that their DNA actually be scrubbed. So after we get results and we print it all up and we do all the work with it, then we scrub it from the database, so the lab's database and Intellect's database and my database. So it depends on your level of comfort with DNA being shared. I understand that there's some different backgrounds there. It takes about 4 weeks for the results to get back in. I've had them come in as early as 12 days, but I've also had them come in as late as 5 weeks. So 4 weeks is about the average. I get onto it pretty quickly. I actually have working days where I'm in the office, and then I have out of office days where I'm actually just on the computer at home, going over things, taking notes, that kind of thing. I can usually get back to you after I get the results within 3 or 4 days. Business is picking up, so you hear the hesitation in my voice. Usually within 3 or 4 days. I'm now doing about 15 or 20 of these a month, which is just phenomenal. My goal is to do 60 to 65 a month and to bring in a larger team. Now, in America, this is where this is going to be the easiest route. In Georgia, I've been speaking to Diane. She has 4 kits already with her in Georgia. In Georgia, the country does not allow their DNA to leave the country. There's been some communication issues. There's been some bank issues. I mean, we're dealing with governments and, what they consider their private property, which is your DNA, which is a whole different conversation. So getting the DNA, if we do it everything by the book, getting the DNA from me being one practitioner to another practitioner in Georgia and then back is perfectly fine. It's just finding a practitioner who will work directly with me. Then I have to directly send the practitioner, the doctor, the kits, and then that doctor has to administer it and then send it back to me. And then I send it to the lab. So that adds obviously probably a 2 or 3 week period of time. And then of course there's the, money exchanging hands, and that's all kind of a pain in the butt. But definitely doable and not that big of a deal. Then there's the other issue that Diane and I were kind of running into, and that is not every supplement that I would be recommending here in America is available in Georgia. But all of those things are workaroundable. Like we can work outable. Like we can deal with these things. They're just surface level issues. What I'd like to do, and we're working on it behind the scenes at Intellect's DNA, if I were to fly to Georgia, I could bring them with me and into country without any issues, and I could fly out of Georgia with them. So if the project was big enough, and it was, fiscally responsible for me to fly to Georgia, I have a passport, run all the tests, and then fly back with the results, and then take it into Intellect's DNA, completely 100% fine with the government. Also, if somebody's from Georgia, I think that's where Diane's kind of going with it. Diana, yeah. Where she's kind of going with it. She has a friend flying out of the country, and that person's going to bring the DNA with her. For some reason, that's fine as well. So those are all acceptable methods.
Somebody could be bringing in the thing that would work.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. The other, and there's already 4 there. It's as long as it flew out with somebody that was coming in, to America, it would be acceptable. Yeah. It is the shipping. Otherwise, it has to be doctor to doctor, and that's
okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Other countries right now, that's the only country I've explored. We explored Germany. Germany's a little bit more open, believe it or not. But other than that, we haven't looked at any other countries. And it is only available in the United States and Canada. And that's kind of how that goes. Okay. Yes, Barty?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you something that I've been researching on myself. And since 2018, I've been doing a lot of natural healing, looking at a lot of natural stuff. And basically what's come up for me right now is that gut health is everything. Would you agree with that?
Yes, but so if you cannot process, like say we're just talking about vitamin D, if you can't process vitamin D, your gut health doesn't matter. And your gut health can't be in optimal levels if you can't process vitamin D. So there's several things there. Something like leaky gut syndrome. We can actually see leaky gut syndrome in your genomic. Picture these little, they're not hairs, but they're, picture these little filaments that make up the lining of your intestines. If there's a space between them and it's a genetic, there's a genomic variant creating that space, no matter what you do to heal your gut, that's not going to fix itself. And also, if you can't process vitamin D, such as vitamin D is not getting to the places it needs to get because there's no docking stations for it, you're never going to get ultimate healing in your gut. So do I agree that the brain-gut connection? I absolutely do agree with that. But what that equation is kind of missing is if we can't methylate B12 and it gets down to the gut too big because you didn't break it down, the gut can't break it down for you. And digestion is more than just the intestines. The intestines is literally just absorption. I want to explain this to you just a little bit more. We seem to be more familiar with how we oxygenate our blood. You inhale your lungs fill, and in those little capillaries in the lungs, we have this O2 exchange, the O2 and carbon dioxide exchange going on. And that's how we oxygenate our blood. It's like little itty bitty capillaries and little gas exchanges. The exact same thing happens in the intestines. The smaller we can make the food and the vitamins and minerals, the more likely the intestines are to be able to absorb it and put it into the bloodstream. Okay. If we've got any breakdown, such as before we get to the intestines, it's too big, it's not been methylated, broken down, absorbed, and it's not usable to that person, it doesn't matter. It got to the intestines, it's still not usable. And so, yes, I completely agree. There's a lot of that. But I think it's just one component. I think there's some really missing things there, like copper. I mean, just to use that young man earlier for an example, with his copper. His mother was giving him, you know, all these wonderful vitamins that were well broken down, and she was doing so many things. But his body, when it did the absorption of copper from the intestines, it was making him sick. Like it was hurting him. And so increasing his digestibility wasn't helping him. It was actually hindering him individually. And then when we lean into things like PANDAS-PANS, which is pediatric autoimmune neurological disorder, when we talk about systemic strep, frequently we have strep in our bodies in different locations, and sometimes it's creating a problem. And having that panel run, the PANDAS-PANDAL run, it lets us know how your body's responding to systemic infections. Like, how is it dealing with it? Does it know how to pinpoint? Oh, this is a whole section about inflammation. There are people who their body doesn't know how to pinpoint there's a boo-boo there. Like where there's a bruise, their body just sends out basically all over the place instead of targeting exactly where the issue is. And I can see that in their genomic. So it's just different. This is just another level. And what I want people to be left with is, if you've tried everything and it hasn't helped, don't turn on yourself and say, I didn't do it right. I didn't do this well enough. I didn't do XYZ well enough. No, maybe there was something else preventing that. Maybe you really did try a lot of things and you really did work really hard. There was just something blocking that. There was something in that way there. And I'm sorry, I have a raspy throat. I haven't slept in 3 days. We just drove back from Colorado. I just caught a baby after 5 cesareans. And so I've been all over the United States in the last 10 days. Oklahoma City, Amarillo, Oklahoma City, Amarillo, Colorado, and then back. But it was very important for me that no matter what, I was here with you guys today. I got to share with this. One is for my own personal development, so I feel comfortable in the conversation. I feel comfortable with the questions that you're asking, and I feel more comfortable explaining the differences. There are some handouts that I have that are available. I can do things like, what is the difference between this genomic test and the other, like 23andMe? So I have handouts that kind of explain that. I have some brochures about cognitive decline.
That would be awesome. Do you have them in electronic versions so we can see them?
I do. I have in PDFs. Yes. And I can kind of spam you guys with those in the next couple of days. And I have there's some amazing videos out there. The head of IntellectDNA, the chief medical director of IntellectDNA, she has just mass produced a whole lot of things. Have you ever heard of Dr. Hyman? He's one of the leading medical doctors that then turned naturopathic doctor. And he talks about genomics, and the two of them they have covered just about every subject known to man on YouTube. So I can kind of hook you up with some of these things so you can just do your own research. I'm not here to tell people what to take and how to do things. What I'm here to do is to open up your exploration of your own healing, to provide you with the research, the handouts, the data, the information, so that you become always proactive in your own health and your own healing. You can get away from that dependence on other people. And that's kind of where my personal motivation is in this. Put the power back in the driver's seat.
You know what comes in mind? I remember reading this. Tony Robbins is one of his books, and he imagine like become the CEO of your own health.
Yes. It's another way of having like personal responsibility.
Opinions and just really take it in your own head. So you say exactly
Yes.
that.
Yeah, but I'm here to guide. So when I sell a genomic package, we have 1 hour appointment. Then you get the notebook within a couple of weeks. Then after about a month of treatment, you get another 1 hour appointment. So we can adjust with the understanding, you know what, I'm not perfect. I'm not God. I don't, have a magic wand. There's nothing over here that's special other than more knowledge in this area. And then after that, we go another 2 or 3 months and we do it again. We meet together again. What worked? What didn't work? What did you see? What changes were there? And we adjust again. And then I also include like 15 or 20, and don't have an exact number. I just say 15 or 20 check-in appointments. You get an ear infection? I'm going to want to know. I'm going to use your genomics to help heal you. I'm going to teach you to refer to your notebook. We call it your notebook, your workbook. I'm going to teach you to refer to your panels and start diagnosing yourself and dealing with yourself on a really personal, effective level. It's not about me being great or wonderful or those genomic tests being amazing. It's about putting the power and putting you back in the driver's seat of your own health. And that's where I find myself. Like that's, wow. I found one, so I take one supplement and it changed my life. Just all of a sudden my panic and anxiety was just gone. And it wasn't me. It wasn't my choice. And there was no landmark that was going to get me out of it. There was no getting, no, it just wasn't. I was having a physiological deficiency that was creating something in my brain that wasn't working. And that's what I'm helping other people do. Okay. Thank you for letting me show up how I am, by the way. Go ahead.
Can you maybe, because I think this might interest a lot of the people joining, speak to things like estrogen dominant, estrogen toxic, because, a lot of times when women go into menopause, they're given synthetic hormones, and just the impact of how like birth control pills and all of that.
It's amazing.
Impacted us.
So that impacts everything from inflammation to your IgE, which is your allergic reaction response. And there are about 15 genes that are just related to how you process estrogen, period. And so my supplements before I started menopause were XYZ. Postmenopausal, my supplements are BDQ. It was just phenomenal. But yes, you're spot on when we start talking about estrogen. And this applies to men too. There's estrogen and testosterone levels that are very, very dependent on whether or not you can methylate your B vitamins. Also zinc and copper, and getting those in balance. We can knock estrogen completely out of whack if we have too much zinc or too little zinc, which is just mind-blowing to even think that it's that intricate. B12 is, actually I was just looking at one. VDR was my favorite gene SNP in relationship to estrogen. It is weird. Okay. The really cool thing is we can say in the genomic test or the results say this, it'll say like before menopause, this is what you should be doing. Post-menopausal women, this is what you should be doing. And I found that incredibly helpful. We're not cookie cutters and we change throughout the times. But did I kind of explain that, or that's kind of a complicated question we could have gone through?
Oh, yeah. I was thinking more how, depending on your genetics with this, that you actually need like different kinds of synthetic estrogens that,
so I would never
forms.
go to, we list the actual, so there's actual sections in here, even for ADHD, where the medications that would actually work or you should avoid. We even have a test for AFib, and which like high blood pressure medications would actually work for you. You'd be surprised how many people on metformin and their genomics says metformin will do nothing for these people. And yes, that's actually covered in a particular panel of which estrogen synthetics would actually be helpful. I try personally to avoid those synthetics and try to get people through nutraceutically, only because it's more sustainable. and I don't always trust the sources of balance with estrogen supplements. Which brings me to a great point of when you get this genomic reports, it's written for practitioners as well. I spend time making sure you know how to use the report, but you can actually walk into your practitioner and go, oh, see, it says not good. And then he can adjust. We even have an anesthesia panel. We can tell how you're going to respond to propofol and a couple other anesthesias. I've had at least 50% of the people here that I've tested say that they need 20 or 40 or 60% less propofol to have the same impact. And that would be very life-saving information to have if you're going to have any surgery whatsoever. So otherwise, I don't want to get into super specifics because the estrogen is so dependent on detox, and it's so dependent on your ability to methylate your vitamins and minerals.
Right. I just thought that's going to be something that eventually all of us are going to be dealing with, and just showing how important that knowing your DNA and how to make those choices and navigate it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it would be, I can show you I didn't get the specific panel up, and I don't have anybody menopausal here to show you. But yeah, there's about 45 different gene variants that actually impact your estrogen. And we really can see what synthetic estrogens would be useful or not. I can't prescribe that, though, and to be clear that that would have to be an actual MD, and I am not an MD. I am an MD. I do everything functional or nutritional. Go ahead. I'm listening. Okay.
Wow.
Yay.
That's amazing.
Okay.
Okay, ladies, any questions? Come
Yes,
on, if you have anything.
I want to acknowledge Gwendolyn. I mean, it was like Chinese for me, and everything what she's sharing is very interesting, and I'm like sharing it on my social media because I know that there is something that humans need, and I'm inspired. What I heard is that you are passionate about what you are doing. You are dedicated. You are contributing, and I'm moved, and I'm so grateful. Thank you for everything what you are doing, and thank you for who you are, really, Gwendolyn.
Thank you. I needed that acknowledgement this morning.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, it's so amazing, though. I have to tell you, sitting on this side and watching people let go of their diagnostics. And let go of the identity, I am this, like my fibromyalgia, my diabetes, just letting that go. And then having a new my healing, my health. It's just a really beautiful thing to witness and watch people take control over their own lives again.
Yes. I mean, we have known a lot of doctors and other occupations, and and we now noticing the difference maker. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys for sharing, this day with me. How many people were on here today? Actually, people just kept coming.
Quite a few. We have a couple that left, but yes, and
wow.
And we're recording this, so it's going to be, as you know, we created and thank you, Alyssa, for that. Created the YouTube channel for our group. So we're going to put all those up there so that we can go and have, for those who want to rewatch it, for those who will be interested and would like it. And really, I think that this is such a deep and big topic, and we can talk about how we can actually, if you're willing to, Gwendolyn, I would love for you to actually come back and just really maybe even go into the specifics of, because now we have a general overview of what it is. And I'm sure that, we all would benefit knowing more, and, we can just even ask, our members, what are the diseases, what are the, things that you're struggling with, and see if you have something that you can contribute with that, right?
And what I'll do is I will share some PDFs with you guys. I would like to share a couple of things that I personally have written about chasing a diagnosis or the body obtaining homeostasis. and how I got to that point where I understood the body in a different manner. And then I can share some things actually put out by Intellect's DNA just to help you see what's available and see what, you resonate with and what makes sense to you. Because this was just a lot of information for a very short period of time.
Yeah, it is. And I think that will be fantastic. And I'm so glad that so that everyone knows. So I connected Gwendolyn with a Georgian friend of mine and my sister's who has an autistic son. And she's working with an organization, I don't know if she shared with you, that has an impact in Georgia and that they can make the difference. So I really hope that you and her will create a possibility for all these parents and the children who actually are dealing with autism. And, in the country like Georgia, it is not easy. Anywhere it's not easy, but there it's a big taboo.
Well, here in America, I have a research project going with the local campus where they're creating doctors. I call them doctor seeds. And we have some doctoral dissertations coming out of a research project this coming year. So it's phenomenal to look at this a lot deeper and to realize that we are now starting to combine allopathic medicine and we're just starting to combine medicines. It's no longer left versus right. It's now whatever we need to do to get healing. The world has just completely opened up post-COVID, and all the minds are now freer to experience the world and what's possible instead of just being, dead set and blind.
Amazing.
So thank you guys so much. And I need to get ready because I have a full day of appointments.
All right. Thank you everyone for being here. And I'll post the link. Of course, I'll let you know about this, and we'll be back.
Okay. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.